Hello and welcome to the Life as a Fitness Instructor podcast. My name is Lorna Marie and I'm your host. I'm a fitness presenter, brand creator of Yogascape, fitness instructor and wife and dog mum to little Harvey. Through this podcast, I really want to inspire and share tips and tricks and really be that friend in your headphones or your earbuds that I feel I never really had in the industry until now. So I'm trying to share as much of my passion with you as I possibly can so you can learn from me and everyone else who I interview on this podcast from their years of experience in the industry. If you enjoy this podcast and you get value from it, please do like, subscribe and share on your socials so we can help other people in this incredible industry where we get to change lives, but one that can also be really quite tough at times too. Let's support one another and lift each other up. I hope you enjoy this episode. So welcome, Luke, to the Life as a Fitness Instructor podcast. It's great to have you here on a sunny Friday. How are you today?
Sunny Friday. It's just a little bit, I say a little bit sunny here, but I'm doing very well. Thank you.
Good. No, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. Now, if you're listening, me and Luke go way back to pre-COVID times when Luke was a PT on the gym floor at Sutton in Ashfield, Anytime Fitness. And I was going in and out of the little studio teaching, I don't even know how many fitness classes every week. And it's been really, really nice to see you flourish, Luke, in what you're doing and to see you now tap into different spaces and more the real in-depth coaching spaces. So just for anyone who doesn't know who you are yet, could you explain who you are and what you do, please, Luke?
Oh my gosh, this is always a great question, isn't it? But just to give obviously everyone a context. Yes, I had first heard of Lorna at the gym. She was, I think, named as that the Pocket Rocket in classes. And yes, she did spend a lot of time there. We always bumped into each other and said hello. And I think that's where my kind of journey started, from my own experience of having a coach. It was one of those things, well, it was a personal trainer actually, but I said personal trainer coach. I felt that having someone in your corner and who was willing to understand where you was and where you wanted to be and bridge that gap, that given me an insight and actually encouraged me to think, I like this. And then as I felt the support from my team members, I then started hiring other specialists. I had therapists, and this is all when I played the football game. And then when football kind of come to an abrupt end, I've decided that what do I do with my life? I just had no interest in university. I had no interest. I love education now. Obviously, I'm really into personal development. So I just went into personal training and then went onto the gym floor. Now, obviously, with COVID, as we all know, it was I know for some people, a pivotal moment. It can be highs, it can be lows. It had a mix of that for me as well, but I definitely take a lot of positives from it, and it transitioned my business online. I built a team of coaches. I guess now I would classify myself as an entrepreneur, but more in the space of, I'd say, personal and professional coaching. So I tend to work with individuals now on things such as time management, work-life balance, energy management, pretty much helping them become the person that they want to become. So the simple thing is if you was to ask yourself right now, who do I want to become? Rather than fixating on an outcome, whether that is losing weight or, I don't know, wanting to get loads of likes on Instagram or something, right? Is that who do I want to become as a part of that process? So whether that's like a better father, a better mother, and a role model, that's kind of where I guess the depth of the professional coaching comes in, because it's the 1 mile deep, not 1 mile wide. So a lot of things that we tend to kind of get exposed to on a daily basis is more surface level, whereas I tend to hold a space. Like I know we was talking before, I'm working with Lorna about this podcast being a safe space. And I guess there'll be things that I share on here today that, people would never know looking from the outside. And this is the thing, is externally things can look great, but internally or behind the curtain, things aren't what it seems. And I think this is where, I guess coaching, and obviously Lorna is an established coach. It's been great to also see yourself grow into your kind of niche as well. I run a business now based on mastering your life. And mastering your life to me is something that excites us because it's a forever evolving thing. It's your identity's moving, you're adapting, and you're becoming the person who you knew you was always capable of. So you're living life with purpose and meaning, and then you're happier as a result of it. So at the end of the day, if you're in a better place yourself, and everybody else is going to benefit as a byproduct. I think a lot of people get it the wrong way around.
Oh, yeah. Well, wow, that's absolutely huge. And coming from a fitness instructor, like a Fit Pro perspective here, I think we're really, really good at telling people how to manage their time, manage their fitness, manage their energy, think about the person you want to become and act more like them. But when it actually comes down to doing it ourselves, I think we can be a little bit rubbish about with that, actually coaching ourselves. So really, it's really important, I think, as a coach to have a coach as well. Would you agree on that one? Do you have a coach, Luke?
Yes, I do have a coach. I think there's only been, and I'm talking in 8 years here of being in the coaching industry, probably a year period, like in blocks, I mean, added up, that I've not had a coach. I've had multiple coaches at one time as well, where I've had a psychology coach, I've had an athletic coach. The reality is, and I don't know whether people listening to this feel this way, but I know I feel this way, and I know obviously, Lorna, you're the same, is that two pairs of eyes or three pairs of eyes, two minds, three minds, four minds are going to be more effective than just one. Because as we are, if we are going after something, we can go far on our own, but we go a lot further together as a team because they may spot something that we know, but we're not seeing it clearly. So even when you're just talking about time there, and obviously something that I'm working on now with people that I work with is the time and energy side of things. When I was on the gym floor, I was not breathing and breeding that sort of concept. I had that hard work mentality, and that only came from, I guess, really my ego taking over and thinking to myself, well, if I can work all these hours, and I'm a hard worker, I'm the man. I can show people that I can build a successful business. But that came through a lot of anger and frustration from being rejected in my footballing career. So as soon as I walked through those doors at Anytime Fitness, there was only one thing that was going to happen and what I was going to focus on, and that was me running that gym. I wanted to be the busiest personal trainer, but not just the busiest. I wanted to build a community. I wanted people to walk around and feel a sense of belonging. And it's the reason why I'm actually sat here with, a piece of the clothing that we've got. And do you know what? Obviously, you've got the same as well. Power in numbers, even if they're not part of what you do. And I guess, yeah, having coaches to be accountable to, and genuinely, if they've got your best interest at heart and they are supporting you, like a cheerleader in your corner, or there's somebody that's like rooting for you, but at the same time challenging you. I think that's another thing as well, is like challenging your beliefs, challenging what you're doing. And so you feel like they are moving you forward rather than just feeling a bit of a transaction or a number in the business.
Oh, yeah, 100%. And I also think that accountability is invaluable as well. I think the majority of us know what we need to do or know roughly what we need to do, but it's actually just putting it into play and not doing what we say to our clients, which is, oh, yeah, I'll start on Monday. Start today, start now. But I'd love to go back to where it all started for you, Luke, in the fitness industry. Do you have a pinpoint moment that you could go back to that was like your spark moment that made you think, I really want to be in the fitness industry?
Yeah, it comes from being in a, I guess, competitive athletic environment. So being in professional football, a lot of it now, as we know, it's very glamorous. It's quite fancy, and everybody has to look kind of perfect with the hair and the face and the graphics and all this, sort of like wearing your number t-shirt and your profile. It's just a lot of pressure. And even back then, you had to hit certain numbers and metrics, body fat percentage being one. We had intrusive calipers. You may have had the test yourself, but because I was actually quite insecure about my body image, I mean, ever since probably the age of 13, 14, when, you do start, I guess, I wouldn't say like getting in serious relationships, but you're starting to date. I was starting to date girls, you're taking your top off, but all those kind of things. And I didn't realize how insecure I was. And when I looked back through old photos, I saw that I was a chubby kid. Nobody ever said this, by the way. This was just the story I was making up. So when I started being in the change rooms, and then as a footballer, you strip down naked and stuff like that. I don't know what it was, Lorna. To be honest, I hid away in the corner. I don't know. And I wasn't even like chubby. I just felt very, very insecure. And at this moment, I'd had personal trainers. I was subscribed to Men's Health magazine, and I was following those workouts, 21-day beach body shreds. I was listening to information. I was listening on YouTube more than anything. I know there's a lot more platforms now, and I was reading into stuff, going into calorie deficits, and I was doing the whole thing. What I realized is even though I had coaches, I weren't necessarily, and this is the bad thing, is I thought I was a good listener, but I wasn't. I was just kind of just working hard, putting in the time and thinking the more I put in, more I get out. That was where I was going with it.
Yeah.
So I guess really what I realized is that I did have a problem. And the problem is that I did have a bad body image. I had a poor relationship with food. I used to binge. Again, people don't know this, or they do if they've heard me talk about it before, but they wouldn't think, oh yeah, this guy's sat in his car just chomping on a bag full of sweets, cookies, chocolate eclairs, you name it, on my own, just emotionally eating because I couldn't seem to shift my body fat, and I felt rejected. I felt like I was worthless, right? Deep, dark moments in my life. So this was where then, when I actually decided to hang my boots up in football at 22, I was working with my dad, and the moment clicked for me when all I ever wanted to do was be in that gym. It was my church. It was my place where I just felt free, right? I didn't feel judged. I never felt out of place, even though at moments I did look at bigger guys in the gym and think, he must know what he's doing, and I kind of follow it or something. But I'd had personal trainers, so I had some guidance, had some level of expertise there. And I loved coaching. I loved acting. I was thinking about what's things that I like. And then my dad had actually said to me whilst I was engineering, working with him, because this is what I was doing, is I was trying to force myself into engineering because it was my dad's business and it was a good paid job, and he runs his own business. I just didn't want to do it. Even though it was the easy way, it would have been a great lifestyle. I could clock in and clock out when I wanted. So he said, Luke, you know what? We've just recently been on a cruise ship, and we saw fitness trainers out there. They're on the beach playing volleyball with some beers. Looked like they were with all the dancing crew. Looked like they're having a great time. They were there, in Caribbean. And I thought of you, and I thought, I didn't even realize there were fitness trainers on ships. So anyway, my dad said that. He said, go and look for a personal training qualification. Anyway, it was £2,500 at the time. I didn't have that kind of money. He said to me, look, Luke, I'll pay it. And that's it. The moment was then that I thought I had to change. Something had to change in my life because I was in a depressive rut. It was a really hard decision to say goodbye to football. It was the hardest thing I've ever done because it's all I ever knew. It was 15 years of my life, 16 years of my life, something like that. So that's when then, 6 weeks, I did a 6 weeks in-person intensive PT course. And, everybody says everything happens for a reason. Obviously, this for me was my reason. I landed on that course, and the guy that was our tutor, he'd been on cruise ships for 4 years, and he was talking about, Luke, you're traveling the world. Every day you're in a different place. Guess what? There's loads of women. And I was like, oh, I'm sold. I'm in. Sign me up, because, this is, again, I know it might come across as a bit, I don't know why this is relevant, but when I was in a dark place, Lorna, I had no libido. I had no interest in women. I just completely focused on trying to become a professional footballer. It was a sacrifice in my life where I missed parties. I missed opportunities where I'd, have sleepovers and whatever. I missed it all because I was like, football is my dream. And so that was then I was like, what? I really need to go somewhere, get out of this country, just go somewhere where nobody knows who I am. Nobody knows that I've had a football background. Because I felt as though I failed. I felt as though I failed everybody at school because, oh gosh, like when I left, I was like, Luke, remember me when you're famous. I had a leavers book and I've got everyone writing in there, oh mate, sign me this, sign me that. It was such a pressure to me, really, looking back, thinking all these people was rooting for me to become this footballer, and I'd not kind of done it. I went on to a different path. So that was the trigger for me. And then as soon as I went out on cruise ship, that's when it all started to kind of like evolve and grow into a different path.
That must have been such a huge, huge step, Luke. And can I just say thank you so much for sharing all of that too? Thank you for opening up about your past with the body image side of things. I think that is something that we don't really talk about enough as fit pros, and particularly men. I know more men are starting to talk about it now, but I know so many guys behind closed doors who are having real struggles with this, particularly in the fitness industry. So whether that's being a PT, a footballer, or a group exercise instructor, where eyes are on you. So it's not just for your sport, but also for the way that you look and the way that you're meant to look, or so-called, in speech marks, meant to look. The pressure that we put on ourselves to be a certain way, and the pressure that gets put on us, I think that can be really tough. So thank you so much for sharing that. And also that huge decision you had to make, but I'm guessing one of the best decisions that you ever made. That must have been big.
Yeah, no, I like that, what you've just, I guess, circulated there. It was the biggest decision. I mean, just to give your audience just some context, 6 weeks in, and I haven't really shared this. This is fully winging it, by the way. This is actually funny. You might laugh at this. You might go, oh, how did he even do this? But this is just a bit of a takeaway for you, is that 4 weeks in to my PT course, there was an interview, and it was a one-time opportunity interview. There wasn't another interview for a couple of months. Now, this is where people feel and want the right time. There's no right or perfect time. We know this. So I want people to kind of really engage in this. So 4 weeks in, I'd not qualified. I'd not gotten certificates. And I was saying to the tutor, Justin, I want to go on this interview because there's not going to be another one for a couple of months, and I'm going to be passing in 2 weeks. What I'm going to do for a couple of months? I don't want to wait any longer. I really want to just get stuck in and get to this academy and do this cruise ship world. So he forged the certificates for me. Yeah, so literally, he was that confident in my ability. See that difference? Like, we're confident. We believe. We install that belief in our clients before they believe it themselves. So that's what he did to me. So he threw me in the uncomfortable deep end. He said, Luke, here's certificates. I went to the interview. Imagine, I walked in the room and there was about 40 or 60 women. We all red lipstick on. Lorna's got red lipstick on right now, by the way. Oh. And yeah, and it was literally, I was like, am I in the right place? And this lady, Angela, come up, she went, are you Luke? I says, yes, I am. She went, you're in the right place. You're the only fitness here. These are all the beauty therapists, nail technicians. And I was like, oh. Didn't even realize that I would be working in a spa with loads of females. So that was an added bonus as well. But anyway, I went into the room. She says, Luke, I'm really sorry to pick on you, but I want you to stand up in front of everybody and introduce yourself. Imagine, sweat palms, knees shaking, never met these strangers, deep end. So anyway, nailed it, winged it. Confidence came through, even though I really were, struggling. Sat me down. Right, Luke, so as you're stuck on stage, thank you for introducing yourself to everyone. We're going to do a live consultation. So what's a consultation? I don't even know what that is. Yeah, so I'm going to sit down and be a potential client where, I've been trying Slimming World, I've been doing Weight Watchers, whatever. I had to sit there and not prescribe, but at least empathize and give her some advice in a way, like what I would say. And I was like, this is mental. I've never ever done one single client consultation or one. Anyway, it really went well. Everyone was blown away. Oh, this guy's a natural. I was like, oh, okay, winged it. Then I'm going down. So they invited me down to Watford, did my 3 weeks. When I was there, right, so you got to imagine the mindset I was in. I felt rejected. I felt worthless from football. I was like, is this going to work out? All I know is football. Didn't know anything different. So then I go down to Watford. So I'm packing my bags for 3 weeks. I've paid £450. So again, it's my mum and dad's money. I didn't even have the money. And I'm in that academy and we're learning Pilates. We had to learn a Pilates routine in like a day. Right. And I didn't even know what Pilates were. Then I had to learn a yoga routine in a day. Didn't even really know what yoga was. To be honest, I'd heard of it, but I'd never really done it. To be honest, I thought yoga for girls just at that time. Then we had to do seminars. So we had to actually stand up in front of people, public speak, and then sell a product. So imagine all of this was condensed into 3 weeks. And then you was getting sent out to a cruise ship for 9 months, a contract for 9 months. You couldn't break it. You had to do 9 months. So that's the context of the decision. And within that 3 week period, I was hearing feedback like, Luke's dynamite. Luke's got it. He's going to kill it on cruise ships. He's going to be like the top sales fitness. He's going to be, guests are going to love him. And I've not heard that for a long time. I'd always heard the football like, you're not good enough. You're fat. Oh, I got told you're a fat bastard from like football. It were deep. You know, they cut me hard. They used to talk about my family. It was bad. So I guess for me, I was not, again, I wasn't believing it. Even though these people were saying it, I was like, it was refreshing. It kind of picked me up a little bit. So anyway, before I know it, I can remember stood there when I got sent out on the cruise ship. The guy was sat, this is Luke, and everybody was talking about Alaska. Alaska is the place where the money is. Right? That's where it was. And he sat me down and he says, Luke, you're going to Alaska. We're going to fly you out to Vancouver, get your suitcase ready, you go out tomorrow. I was like, no way. I was like, this is mental. Because they paid the flights out and paid the flights back. Well, they only paid the flight back if you stick the name of contract out. So anyway, that was the journey. That was the story. And I think really just then when I stepped on, and even better, when I stepped out to the cruise ship, I've never been on a ship in my life. So you can imagine I'd not slept all night because I was that excited and nervous. So my mum were messaging me, Luke, you're all right, you're all right. Because I was in completely different time zones. I was in Vancouver. I walk up and I look at this ship and I'm like, you know, wow, is this my home? Yeah, this is my home for 9 months. Walking on there, everyone's looking at me like I'm a fresh piece of meat. You can imagine, like, who's this new kid on the block? I'm wearing a suit, by the way. Got told to wear a suit. You don't have to wear a suit, but I just wore a suit, clean shaven. You couldn't have a beard. I was scared. You know, I was like, oh. And then anyway, I went up to the spa. I couldn't take anything in because I was just so mesmerized by it, all my surroundings of what this cruise ship was, because I'd never seen it. Saw the gym, blown away. Anyway, then I went straight into embarkation. So I had to get on my gym gear and had to get straight into welcoming guests. Never done it. I've never had, you know, I was stood there going, hey, you know, welcome to, you know, the Nordam, and we've got yoga, we've got street, and bearing in mind, I'd literally practiced this once. So then my instructor came up to me and he says, Luke, you're going to do stretch tomorrow morning. I said, stretch? What do you mean stretch? He went, you're going to take the stretch class. It's a free class. So then that night, I'm like, oh God, what stretches do I do? I'm on like Google using the shit Wi-Fi, and like, what stretches do I do? I was completely winging it. Like, and the thing is, do you know what's funny about the whole thing? Them guests had no idea. They didn't know. They was just there going, this guy's the expert, this guy's the pro, let's give him a go. And that was the thing for me, is like, I was like, these guys, they look up to me and think, oh, this guy knows what he's doing, but I didn't know what I was doing. This is the thing about people when they don't start, right? So it comes back to that. They don't start or don't try because they feel that they have to be, like you say, they have to look a certain way, or they have to be ready, or they have to feel like everything's in place. That's an example right there. And you know what? Within 18 months, I became in the top 3 fitness across 450 fitness trainers.
Wow, that's amazing.
You know? And that was because I loved it. I had passion, energy, and I studied hard, and I learned from my failures. I failed forward hard.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is actually what we were just talking about a minute ago, wasn't it? Well, before
Yeah.
the podcast, the fact
Yes.
that you should never be afraid to fail because you learn from it anyway. So that's just an incredible story. I feel like that was a huge turning point in your life and gave you that confidence to actually really believe in yourself as well, and know that actually you had it all the time. You got it, whatever it was. They were loving you on the cruise ship.
Well,
That's amazing. Yeah, that's incredible. I love how you said as well that you just had to think on your feet with a stretch class, and you learned Pilates and yoga in one day. I can't believe you learned Pilates and yoga in one day. I'm just going to put that just put that to a side a sec. But I do feel like as fitness instructors, quite a lot of the time, we need those skills and that ability to be able to think on our feet. That goes with covering a class. That goes to turning up to a class and your music not working, or you're not bringing your lesson plan. Things like that happen all the time, and you have to have that ability to think on your feet. So in a way, what they did was great. It gave you those skills straight away.
Well, yeah, you had no choice really. Yeah, but just on the terms of, because I know you do yoga and Pilates, there was a routine that you had to continue to follow once you're out there. I think it was more about the speed. Speed, like, because it was 3 weeks. If they didn't feel you was ready, you would have to do the whole 3 weeks again. So you may be there for 6 weeks. You see, some were there 9 weeks, because what they wanted is they didn't want for you to go out on that ship and then just leave after 7 days. Because there were stories, you can imagine, horror stories where the trainer went out and there was like, they've sold me a dream, I'm quitting. And they just walk off after 2 or 3 days. So they were quite, you know, tactical with it. But obviously they saw something in me that was like, let's just throw him out there. And I think for me, that's when I actually started switching my mindset. And I know people say, don't say yes to everything, but this is where I had to start saying yes to more things.
Mm.
And that changed everything, because even when I got out there on the ship, within 3 weeks, the crew members were doing a skydive in Hawaii, right? So I was just, I ain't really earning any money yet, but yeah, let's do it. So I did it. Threw myself out of plane, 15,000 feet. Best thing I've ever done. So, oh, it's amazing. And again, it's like living that life to the max, the potential. And that was another thing that, again, like we was talking before about social circles and friends. I used to come home and catch up with friends, and I'd done all these amazing things. You can imagine swimming with dolphins, all these things, New Zealand, Australia, holding a koala, feeding it, whatever. And they say, "Oh, Luke, how was your contract?" I'm like, "Where do you want me to start?" And I was like, "Yeah, it was amazing." Obviously, I had lows. Trust me, I had a lot of lows. There was times where I wanted to quit. Trust me, I'm not saying it's all fancy and great, but they was just like, okay. And I'd be like, "What have you been up to?" I know, same old. Here every Friday night, having a few beers, and had some fun times, and did it. And that's when I started feeling like I didn't want to say much, because I was like, I just didn't understand. They didn't get it. They were slightly interested, but then they were like, "All right, you can shut up now."
Yeah. Yeah. Kind of wanted to know and hear, but didn't really. It's like when someone asks you, "Oh, how was your holiday?" Like they don't really want to know. They kind of do, but they want you to have a nice time, but not too nice.
Yeah. It was definitely though a life-changing decision. It was 2.5 years of my life. And that's when then obviously through the marketing, because on ships, you didn't have you did have media, but you had to pay for it. So I wasn't really on social media, to be honest. It's like you're in a bit of a bubble. So I had to use paper marketing, leaflet drop-in, cold calling, and just going out to the areas on the ship where the guest was huddling, and then just have conversation. That's what I had to do. I had to work the floor. And that then allowed me to build up again an approachable skill set, so that when I was to leave, and all I thought about when I wanted to leave was set up my own business. And then that's when obviously Muscle Coach came alive.
Yeah. And that was when you were in the gym at Anytime Fitness.
Yeah, when it opened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Straight away. And I have to say that you absolutely smashed it. You were definitely the busiest PT in there. And I know you said you went in with the mindset that you want to pretty much run the gym and everyone wearing your stuff. And I feel like you fully achieved that and accomplished that. So if we fast forward a little bit
Yeah.
to that point, which you really did. You did so well. I know you put the hours in. I know you worked so hard and had very little free time doing that. What was the thing that made you want to transition? Okay, I know we had COVID in the middle, but
Yeah.
what was the thing that made you not want to go back to that then and transition to something completely different to where you are now?
Okay. Yeah. Good question. So have you ever been away from something for a period of time? So you've had that space, and then you've revisited that same space, and it's felt different.
Yeah,
So
100%.
that's how I felt when I walked back through them gym doors. Something just didn't feel the same.
Mm.
I used to walk through and be, hey, buzz in, high beat, upbeat, energy, let's go, smash the day. When I got back to the gym, there was some things going on behind the scenes that, is quite confidential, that I wasn't agreeing with due to the COVID rules. That put me off, started me distancing away a little bit. And then, I'll be honest, I know business is business, but it had gone from, in my opinion, and maybe you will know where you felt this, obviously, it had stepped away from what felt so much of a community gym and such a approachable, there was a lot of togetherness. And I think once then it came back, it seemed to be a bit more corporate and a bit more sales driven and pushy and picky, right? So there was a bit of that vibe going on, and I felt that, and I feel it. So for me, I know when someone's authentic. I know when someone's chatting BS. I've always been quite good at that. I'm not saying I'm the best at reading people, but that's when I started thinking. And I had a full diary, I had great clients. But I think for me, again, once I'd come back from COVID, once the gyms closed, I really got tired. I felt heavy. And I was like, because I slowed down. I was doing 57 hours of PT a week, probably 90, 100-hour weeks for a year solid. And when you're in it, you can keep doing it. Your body just keeps going. You're surprised what your body can do when you just keep going and going and going. And then obviously went to like a dead stop, because obviously gyms closed, my business closed overnight. I started realizing that there's more to life than those four walls. There's more to life than just gym, work. Well, work was gym, sleep, eat, wake up. And I realized that I was never present in a relationship. I just couldn't engage. I was exhausted. You know, for me, if I'd sat, I couldn't even watch TV. I never watched TV. Couldn't even sit and have a conversation with anybody else because I'd be dropping to sleep. My eyes would just feel so heavy because I'd slowed down from the adrenaline rush of training a client. So that's when online started appealing to me. And look, I'd done online, by the way, as soon as I stepped off cruise ships, and I didn't have a great experience, to be honest. Again, I felt quite lonely because I guess what I was trying to get into was very, again, pushy sales. I was on my own. I felt lonely. So then I was like, nah, I need to be around people because on a cruise ship, you're always around people. So for me, it was the flexibility, it was the freedom of time, but also what I love, Lorna, and this is a big passion of mine, is I love personal development. I love learning. I love investing in myself. As I said, I've always had a coach, really. When I was on the gym floor doing that amount of hours, it was impossible for me to have any sort of space or energy or time to do any personal development because I didn't have the time. I was always serving and I guess in a way pleasing my clients. I didn't want to lose them, that I actually didn't have any time for myself. So that was the eye opener for me. And then as I started building up online, I then realized where I am today is that I had to adapt and change my approach. And that's, again, going through my own personal development journey, doing a lot more reading books and all that kind of stuff, is I've just naturally transitioned into this more, again, a lot of people ask me, like, what do you do? And I say, well, I'm a professional coach. Yeah, but what's that? Like, even people today, even though the coaching market's growing by 14% average a year, it's getting more saturated. There's so many more people. Still, people don't understand what coaching is unless they look at somebody and go, all right, okay, they do body transformations. And then they want it at like £50 a month or something. It's a very different approach, I guess. But it's hard for me to articulate until someone's had the experience. But that's what's done it. Me wanting more energy, more time, but ultimately a value of mine that's always been a big thing for me is relationships. And I also want to foster healthy relationships with my clients and build communities. That's something that I'm always passionate about.
Yeah. Do you feel like you've achieved that now? Or do you feel like you're on your way to achieving that?
In a way, I feel like I've reset. So this was somebody asked me this because I know you said, oh, Luke, you're absolutely smashing it. People say absolutely smashing it. I can honestly say right now that in my own opinion and evaluation of my own business, I'm not smashing it. I'm far from it. I'm actually feeling like I'm starting over again.
Yeah.
Because to give your audience context, you know, in your life, right, you may think to yourself that you're in a position in your job role. Maybe you have a bit of a vision of 10 years where all you're thinking about is this bigger role and more money or whatever it may be. And then you find yourself that more money means more time anyway. So actually you're starving yourself of what your rich life means to you and what your life means to you, basically. So for me, I've had to really take time away from myself, you know, go on men's retreats, build morning routines away from, so, you know, no phone zones, sit with myself and do a lot of like journaling and all that kind of stuff. I thought to myself, like, this, my life is precious and I want to make the most of it by having the energy and all that kind of stuff. So that has now obviously got to me where I don't want on the front end for people to, I mean, trust me, I'll still do fitness. I mean, it's the core and the health is the core of everything, right? You only thrive if your business only thrives really if you're thriving. But I guess for me, I want to help people that are in a bit of a rat race, that are struggling with mental health, that are struggling with, I guess, in a position where they feel like there's no way out. Because I think as well, like you said about fitness, people struggle to make the time for fitness. So I guess really we all know everyone's got the time if they really prioritize it. But I guess for me, it's about just creating that community again that brings like-minded people together. Because I think COVID taught us a lot, didn't it, about being lonely and feeling a little bit disconnected in our relationship. Maybe we learned a lot about ourselves, our home life, our job, our career. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm going now. So I do feel like I'm starting over.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Well, I wish you all the luck in the world with it, Luke. You are gonna. I know you say that you don't feel like you're smashing it, but I think that's because in your mind you've got these goalposts and you're working towards something. You're always working towards something. I feel like you'll always be that kind of person anyway, always wanting to grow, develop, have new ideas. And I think that's really, really great. I think one thing that sometimes we're not so good at as fitness professionals and business owners, entrepreneurs, is actually seeing how far we've come, or just celebrating in the moment, like what we actually have right now. And I know that's something that I want to work on personally, looking at what I've got right now, rather than, okay, where am I going next? What's the next thing? How are we going to grow? How are we going to develop? And just taking those little snippets of moments just to celebrate what we've got right now. So I would definitely encourage you to listen to the people who are saying you are smashing it. Be like, yep, thanks. Yeah, love that. just celebrate that moment. I would love to just go back to something that you were talking about there, where you were saying you now actually make the time for no phone zones, and you make the time to journal and tap into more that mind connection, maybe that more spiritual side.
Yes.
What does that look like? Could you describe that, say on an average day for Luke? What does that look like?
Yeah, no worries. So get up at 5:30 in the morning, and the first, I would probably say, well, go down. I'll tell you my morning routine. So get up at 5:30, go downstairs. I have a greens drink. I have an electrolyte drink, and then I have a coffee with pouring cream in. Right, I love pouring cream. And then I have my book. So I'm reading a book called Buy Back Your Time at the moment. So it's basically a guy that's an entrepreneur building businesses and stuff like that. So again, it's just stuff that fuels my mind into creation. I want to use that word a lot because coaching is creation, basically. Then I just sit there with my intentions. What are my intentions for the day? I like to focus on at least 3, but then I actually circle the ones that are high value, but also high priority. So for me, there will always be one that serves me first. That's always the one that I always tend to circle first, is the one that serves me. Because without me, or providing any sort of energy for myself, well, then I don't know about you, but I think if, like, for example, I know we talk about, oh, I've missed a gym session, or I've been stuck in the house all day because I've been doing loads of emails or something. You've not moved. I don't know. Do you feel, you know, when you're so used to it, you're like, ugh, you like feel a bit like lethargic and frustrated and a bit more snappy because you're like, oh, I wanted to get out today and I didn't, or the weather or the whatever. I set intentions like that. And then with the, that's the journaling side. That's kind of like, and I just write down things. And if I've got any additional thoughts that are in my head, so if I'm in a scarcity mindset, if I'm in a stressful phase, or if I'm in a winning phase, I write it down. I just scribble it out. But something that I will share, right, that is probably a bit too deep for a lot of people listening. I read my eulogy every morning.
Really? That's
Yeah.
really interesting.
Yeah. So I read a book called Hero on a Mission by Donald Miller. And I did this at this men's retreat that I went to in Dubai. And, you know, some of the guys were getting emotional. I wasn't crying, but it definitely pulled at my heartstrings a little bit, because obviously a eulogy, right, is, we all know, and this is why my life is going where it is now, because I have fell into shining. We were talking about this, weren't we, beforehand? I know this is deep, but when anyone's at your funeral, right, they're not talking about what you had got, how many businesses you built up, how many cars you've got, what your house looks like. All they talk about is how you made them feel in the presence of you in that room. So that's a reminder to me, is what do I want to be remembered for? What am I on this earth and world to help people with? But ultimately, who do I want to become in my lifetime? And that's a really big reminder, and it's quite deep, really. You know, it's a written document that is on paper. Actually, it's actually down here, actually in front of me. But so I take that down, read that, and I also read my 1-year vision, my 5-year vision, and my 10-year vision, and it goes through the relationships, spiritual, personal, professional, you know, all that kind of stuff. And you know, at the end of the day, what you write, you invite. It's as simple as that. If you see it and you view it and you absorb it every day, you're more inclined to move towards it, rather than numbing yourself to instant gratification stuff that is actually comparing like whatever their life's like, and you're just there, you know, beating yourself up, really. So I think really that's the intention, and the no phone zone is there. It's then. So you've got to focus, and the boundary as well at the end of the day is 8 p.m. So 8 p.m. is off. You know, no one can reach me, and phones are out of the way. So I can't view it. And then even phones, we've got no phone in our bedroom. It's on the landing, it's on loud so we can hear it, but it's not in the bedroom. There's no TV in the bedroom. It's there for sleep, and it's there for rest.
I think that's really important. There's so much to unpack in that too. And
Oh
I
yeah,
just
we could
want
go
to
on.
say thank you so much for sharing that. I think that's fascinating. And yeah, it's deep, but I think it's really, really important. And I think a
Oh
lot
yeah,
of us do really numb ourselves to that kind of thing and just think about what we've got to do today, tomorrow, what happened yesterday. Maybe just going as far as thinking, okay, I want to go on holiday this summer or working towards the next holiday. I don't know. But we're very rarely thinking about that far ahead, but also thinking about the person that we want to become and almost reverse engineering it. Obviously,
correct.
you've gone quite far ahead with that.
Mm,
And I know that's something that we try and teach our clients, just to think about where are you actually going right now? Just stop and think about where do you want to be and work
mm.
backwards from there, which I
Yeah, yeah.
guess is what you're doing on a day-to-day basis and just really reminding yourself and ingraining that in yourself. So you're reminding yourself of your values, who you want to be, and then you can act in that way that gets you closer to that.
Yeah, no, I think that's great what you're doing as well. It's important, it is. And what I'm saying, again, because I've got the time and space, I say it's space, right?
Mm,
Creative space. People don't have it. They don't even, if they have 15 minutes in a day, they're on their phone.
mm,
If they have a 30-minute gap, they're on their phone, right? So they've had a really tough day at work, they get home, they're on their phone. The amount of people that I have conversations with, they say they're too busy. Yeah, you're too busy on your phone. That's what you're too busy on, right? It's as simple as that. You're not busy. And if you are busy, it's because that's what the voice is telling you inside your head. You're not slowing down. You're not actually looking and auditing your day on where your time's spent. But you know, when you do it, you go, oh, yeah, probably I'm spending too much time on the phone. Yeah. And it's not even about go and look at your screen time. Don't even, because you know anyway. Just have a look at what you do on a day-to-day basis. Go through every hour of the day and just write it down. Like give yourself an opportunity. Like, so okay, so I get up at this time. What do I do? I go to the toilet, I brush my teeth, have a shower, whatever. Like do it. Do the whole day. I work, I do this task, I do that, whatever. Fine. And then do you know what? You might find that like maybe you hit a productive thing and you win. Might be like 1 win out of 10 or something, but you still won. It might pick your energy levels up a little bit. I don't know. I think really it's just we don't do that enough. We just and then we find ourselves that because of all of that chaos and being busy, we feel that life and time's flying by. Well, it's only flying by faster because you've got no awareness. And you've got no space. You're just in this numbing, fast-paced world, whereas you have the ability to slow down time if you're actually engaged and you're creating space, you're creative. This is something that I've actually it's something that I did in a training the other day, not to try and bore you anyway, but it was I was saying to people that inside of the community is you think about people when as they get older and say, when people get older and they get towards the end of their life, what do they generally say to the younger generation? They normally say, hey, listen, life flies by. Time just goes, right? Do everything you possibly can. Well, as you go through your decades in your life, so this is why I did the 1, 5, and 10 year vision. So in 10 years, I'm 40 years old. So what do I want as a 40-year-old saying back to my 30-year-old self right now? What would make it deemed as a purposeless, meaningful life? But the reality is what people do is they are too focused on everybody else and they're not focused on themselves. So what happens is they get caught into clickbait. They get forced into easy instant gratification ways when if they slow down time, even if they go and just watch a sunset or go out in the morning with the dog without their phone or any notifications and just let the thoughts slow down and digest and process. I can tell you now that people would actually have a bit more sense of where they're going with their life, or just at least have a bit more of an idea of what they want, rather than it being glued to something or maybe being around negative people all the time, holding them back.
Definitely. No, I really, really love that. And this is what you're helping everyone with at the moment with the coaching, the mastering your time, right?
Yeah, it's just a first step, right? I think a lot of people try and go to step 10 before step one, So
Mm.
you're maybe not seeing the light, or you're not at the top of the mountain where you overlook and see the view. You're probably just right at the bottom and looking up at the top and thinking, I'm never going to get there. That looks far, but one step at a time.
Yeah, that is what you always have to do. Think about the next step, not the whole staircase, right?
Yeah, yeah, I guess you say it to your clients as well, it's the same thing, isn't it?
Oh, it's so true. So many people join and think, right, I want to lose 2 stone, and then get frustrated. Oh, I only lost £2 this week, Lorna. It's not working, or I haven't lost any weight. And you're thinking, okay, but you are smashing 3 workouts a week, or you're consistently doing 3 workouts a week. Your energy's improved. You said you're sleeping better. Isn't this kind of what you want? These are the outcomes that you want, right? You want to feel healthier. You want to feel more energized. I think some people get lost in seeing the whole mountain, or the top of the mountain, or the top of the staircase, and not really focusing on the journey and what they actually really truly want. Do they actually want that number, or do they just want to be healthier and feel healthier? I don't
Yeah,
know.
that's really good. That what you've just explained there is a good way of looking at things. And we say this, don't we, that life's a journey, not a destination.
Yeah.
So that's why we're on a journey. We actually play 4 parts in our journey, in our life's journey. Number one, hero. So we do like feeling a hero to a lot of people. You know, the people that give out the advice but don't take their own advice sometimes, you know, those kind of people. But we like, yeah, but we like to feel the hero, you know. Second is the guide. The third is the villain. And then the fourth is the victim. So I guess really, which of those roles are you playing right now? You'll play those roles in all areas of your life at certain parts. But honestly, that comes from Hero on the Mission as well. A game-changer book that I've read, and I'd recommend anyone to read it, especially if you're looking at your life and thinking, you know, I want more from my life. I know I'm capable of more. That is deep, but it just stretches your mind a little bit. And I think that's where people have to be a little bit more open-minded to listen, right? And I say listen because people don't listen. Or at least they don't like take some space to listen. Like maybe they're in the room, but I'm like questioning them. Are you actually in the room?
Yeah.
Or are you just like thinking about something completely different? But then you're complaining that you're not where you want to be. So what do you want? Where's the trade-off, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't feel like you should be allowed to complain if you're not doing something about it. We shouldn't be allowed
Yeah.
to do that.
It's too
Well,
easy.
yeah, it is. It's so easy to do that. Now, I really think that all listeners should replay this podcast with a pen and paper and write down notes from what you said, Luke, because you've shared some incredible information, some real insight, and I think a lot of take-home points that people can just go and work on now and create a bit of space. Start journaling maybe in the morning or before they go to bed, and actually think about where they're going. I think that could maybe be a starting point for some people after listening to this. But I just want to say thank you so, so much for coming on the podcast, Luke. I've really, really enjoyed that. I kind of feel a bit upset that we've got to stop the podcast because I feel like I'm learning so much. I'm like, where's my pen and paper?
Oh no. Thank you. Honestly, it's been an absolute pleasure. And like we said at the beginning of all of this, before we jumped on, it was not going to have any set sort of like flow of questions. It was just a free flow. So even when I think now and reflect on some of the things I've said in this episode, I'm like, it's actually pretty good. That is. That's yeah. You know, it's my skill set. It's the experience that I've acquired. And if there's one thing that, oh, you might be asking me this question anyway. What's one piece of advice you give people or something like that? Was that going to be the closing question?
Go for it. It is now anyway.
To people in general or to fit pros?
I'll let you choose. I normally say to fit pros, but I feel like the majority of the time it can be applied to anyone anyway. So yeah, go for it. Whatever you want.
Okay, yeah. I was gonna say I was getting one step ahead of myself here. That's something that I am. I say it's a good thing and a bad trait is I do get ahead of myself. But I think really just from the emphasis of today, and I think it quite stands out, is really focus on your own lane. So look at your map, look at your journey. Really stay focused on that. So you'll find temptations of diversions, maybe diversions that want to take you to your destination or your place of where you're going to feel like you've made it happen, or you know you've got progress. You're going to be tempted all of the time, but can you challenge yourself to stay in your lane? That is what will allow you to really find yourself, but ultimately it will allow you to shift your identity and find out what's working for you and what you're really great at and probably what you're not so great at. But that allows you to live an authentic life. That allows you to live a life true to yourself, which, by the way, is the number one regret people have when they're on the deathbed, that they didn't live a life true to themselves. that's pretty much it, because we don't focus. Our focus is poor. You can't tell me, if I was to ask you on a scale of 1 to 10 right now, your focus, 10 being razor sharp, I'm talking you are dialed in, you are boundary driven. You are like, if I've got a time block, I stick to it. That's 10. 1 is you're dipping in and out, you're all over the place. I can bet my money no one's nowhere near a 10. And then you wonder why you're feeling the way you're feeling right now. I'm not here to have a go. I'm just challenging you to work towards a 7 or a 6, wherever you are. If I was to judge myself, I'd probably say I'm a 6, 6.5, something like that. But that's my piece of advice.
I think it's something we can all take something from as well. Staying in our own lane and staying focused and true to that lane. Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Luke. This has been phenomenal. Really, really enjoyed you coming on the podcast. Thank you for sharing so much knowledge and experience with us today.
Thank you again, Lorna. I hope it adds value to people's lives.
And if you enjoyed that episode, please like, subscribe, and share us on your socials at Yogascape Official or at Lorna Marie Fitness Official. Thank you so much for listening, and I really hope this has been a source of inspiration for you.